Hello, welcome back to another social dilemma video. This is definitely a topic in my not yet written book. Men are not from Mars, women are not from Venus, we are all from freaking cave. Selfishness. Yes, there is one of the human traits that I dislike the most. There's many, but this is definitely up there because we are very selfish. No matter what people say, when it comes down to it, most of us are very selfish, self-centered, self-preservation. All of that is built into our DNA. So it is understandable. I accept that flaw in many people. And that's one of the big problem why this is a big social dilemma that created a lot of pain and suffering all the time. I can sit here and make endless daily videos about different situations where selfishness play a big part in the problem. But for this particular video, I will use this one example here, and you can tell me if selfishness is a big part of the pain and suffering. For those that are old enough to go through at least one bad economic cycle or recession, for example, the most recent one of the big recession is of course 2008, 2009. Coincide with the big housing crash, right? The real estate crash, the real estate bubble. When something like that happens, no doubt you can't turn on the TV or the radio and hear XYZ company is laying off, just announced they are going to lay off 5% of their workforce. Hundreds of people, right? For those that remember that time, it's almost a daily thing for weeks and weeks and weeks, for months. When you keep hearing every day, it seems like one or two companies announce that they're cutting back, laying off people. Pain and suffering. And we can all agree that every company likely to have a few not so good workers. That's given. And not everybody that not every company that employ hundreds of people or thousands of people have great employees. Not one is lazy. Nobody is lazy. Everybody is super duper worker. There's always a few people here and there that do not carry their weight, right? I'm sure all of us that work can reflect back and see that in just about every job that we had, we have or had co-workers that we definitely feel did not carry their weight. Okay, so when times are tough for many businesses, it's not a surprise to hear that they had to lay off some people. And if they had to lay off the weak link, that's understandable, but usually that is never enough, right? That's never enough. But how often do you see or hear a company say, you know, we are going through tough time. We have to lay off a few dozen people, but that's not enough. And in order to minimize the pain and suffering, we're going to share a little pain for the rest of us that still have a job. The entire workforce will take a 2% pay cut. Instead of laying off 5% of the workforce, if all of us take a 2% pay cut, or whatever percentage that we need to take a pay cut in order to ensure that we can stay in business, then we all do it. We share the pain in order to keep as many people employed as possible and limit the pain and suffering. How often do you hear that? How often do you hear that? Almost never. Because most of us are very selfish. Fire that guy, lay off that person, I want to keep my job. It's about self-preservation right here. Fire that person, please. I want full pay. I see this all the time. And I never can understand why and how people can approach life that way. Maybe it's me. I'm always willing to share the pain and suffering. I'm willing to make the sacrifice needed. To me, that's a human thing to do. I fully understand that selfishness, self-preservation is in most people's mind, but I also understand doing the right thing is often the better thing to do, and that always supersedes the way I approach life. It does not mean that I am not selfish. I assure you, I will put myself and my family ahead of everybody, but a little sacrifice is not a big deal. That's not a big sacrifice. Okay, taking a 2 or 5% pay cut is not a big sacrifice. It's selfish to say, pay me fully and lay off the other person. It's easy to think that way until you are the person that get the axe, right? So that's one of a ton of examples that I'm sure all of you can come up with on a daily basis at work or at home, that you can see that selfishness came into play. And I think that's one of the terrible human traits that I don't think we can ever overcome, because that's part of us. We are who we are. It's saddened me that it's part of what make up all of us. And too many decisions, whether it's in politics or at work, are based on self-preservation, selfishness, more than the good of the many. Whether it's at a company's level or at a nation level. Too many people making decisions purely out of their own need, not of the need of the many. Too many. And they somehow is able to color it so that it sounds good for those that benefit from the decision. I dislike that very much. And for whatever reason, we accept that because I think deep down in our psyche, we understand that it is about selfishness. I can recognize it. I think most of us should recognize how and when we make decisions based on pure selfishness, instead of trying to mask it with logic and other reasons that really is not the true reason why we approach making any decision. I can be honest upfront with people when I do something that I consider selfish. I think a lot more people should do that instead of trying to paint it in any other way that make them look nicer. We are all selfish from time to time, here and there, if not a lot of time for some people. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.